Hey there, fellow readers. This is Rambling Collector here. And I know, you all might be shocked to see me face to face now, instead of me either on a screen or with a presentation. But for this video, I figured I'd give it a shot of having my face on screen. More importantly, to be face to face with all of you. But, for the subject of this video, we're going to be doing a nice little comic review. One that has been in my collection for a while, and was actually sent to me as a challenge by a friend of mine, Brevins Flicks and Games. I have been subscribed to his YouTube channel for a while, and the guy will once in a while send me a comic or book to review that is superhero related. This one I've had in my collection for a while, and it's only now that I finally started reading it. And to that, Brevin, if you're watching this, I can only apologize deeply that it has taken me so long to do so, especially since I just finished it in one sitting. Today, we're going to be talking about the X-Men graphic novel, God Loves, Man Kills. Now, I was actually taken aback by this one, and it definitely surprised me. I will say, though, this comic was definitely thought-provoking in its execution, its storyline, and its artwork as well. Definitely having that 90s, 80s vibe, which you can actually see here. If I'll just turn to a few pages here, take a look for yourself. And I gotta say, the artwork for this comic, very well done for its time of 80s and 90s. And in my opinion, I like the fact that it's actually in a magazine format like this, as it really highlights the artwork and story being told. Now, the storyline itself features how you have Reverend Stryker. He is doing thought-provoking works of railing against mutant kind, saying how the work that he does is for the Lord, right? Goes around saying this, gets in a debate with Charles Xavier about it, but then he has his subordinates kidnapping the Professor, Storm, and Cyclops, while Kitty, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Colossus are busy looking for them. It turns out the Reverend's plan is to take Charles Xavier using his psychic abilities, and from there, having him send out a massive pulse all across the world as he's debating or giving off a massive speech, right? And this will result in a lot of mutants being killed within the Madison Square Garden. And from this, that is one of the most messed up plans I've read thus far. Minus the Sentinels at the very least. The Sentinels were another story entirely. And let me tell you something, that was another fantastic review to do for the X-Men. Like I've probably stated before, Marvel Comics is not my biggest strong suit, so whenever there is a good story there, or at least a good classic story, it always takes me by surprise. And this one here, this particular comic, has a really thought-provoking idea to it. For instance, we actually see Charles at one point at his lowest. He has been kidnapped by humans, experimented on, used as a weapon against his fellow mutants, and by the end of it, he actually begins to think that Magneto has a point. And that actually surprised me with seeing Magneto as an ally to the X-Men and saving Charles and stopping Reverend Stryker. That alone took me by surprise. But it was a good surprise, and I will say, definitely well done. Not gonna lie. This one also really highlights for Kitty Pryde as well, whom I'm not sure if she is a major player in the comics or not, or just a major character that is followed. I mean, most of my experience comes from Wolverine or Charles or Magneto. Not so much for some of the X-Men females, which is kind of a shame, at least as far as I'm aware. Unless we're counting Jean Grey, but that's a whole nother story right there. But regardless, I will say, watching Kitty and her evasion of Reverend Stryker's men, trying to just survive, call for help, whatever, that actually left me on the edge of my seat when I was reading it. Just watching her panicking as she's trying to find a way to just save herself, running herself ragged using her abilities, was shocking to me. And in my opinion, the artwork really highlights this with how sometimes it can be very roughly drawn, very well detailed, and just, it works very well for what it is trying to tell. Most importantly, what is the line between man, mutant, or monster? And I will say this much, Reverend Stryker is indeed a monster. He proclaims that mutants are the sin of God, that they are the spawns of Satan. And yet, what does he do? When he finds out that he gets in a car wreck, his wife is pregnant at the time. They get in a car wreck when he's in the army, right? He's on leave at one point after doing a tour. Gets in a car crash with his wife to go see extended family. But during that time when the wife gives birth to the child and he sees that apparently it is an abomination, he kills his newborn child, breaks his wife's neck, and sets it up like an accident for them to just die in a car wreck. That alone is shocking to me, and he proclaims that mutants are the monsters when we're looking at a monster in human skin right here. That alone was shocking to me. I'm just like, really, dude? You're nothing more than a hypocrite. Like, for real, Reverend Stryker? Absolute hypocrite. But I will say this much. Having Charles, with a moment of weakness, saying that Magneto is right, and we even see him reaching out for Magneto's hand at the end of this comic, where he's about to make that choice of how Magneto is right. That his way might be the best way. Because by this point, Charles is just tired. I will say, having Cyclops be the one to snap him out of it, saying, Professor, we are going to follow your example because you were the one who taught us this. That is actually really good. Having one of the students help to re-educate the teacher. It was a really interesting twist of, I want to say, perspectives. And in my opinion, was done very well with this comic. Was I impressed? Absolutely. The artwork? Rough, but understandable for its age of like 80s or 90s when this comic came out. And I was lucky enough to actually get it in a good enough condition thanks to Brevin. Would I say story-wise? Absolute 10 out of 10. Overall, I would say that X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Because I wish that it was longer, but in the time that it had, I was enthralled with the story. The artwork, like I said, is rough, but again, this came out in the 80s and 90s. Definitely understandable. Now, if any of you guys have any other comic recommendations, please feel free to let me know. As a matter of fact, I actually do have another recommendation from someone who has followed my channel for a while, Nanashi, who recommended that I check out Marvel's Ruins series, or at least the graphic novel for it. Needless to say, I will be tracking that thing down to do a review for it. And if you guys like this video, this style of presenting to you guys in face-to-face, feel free to let me know. I might do more reviews like this in the future for comics or manga or something like that, or even just to talk. More importantly, though, thank you all once again for listening, and I hope this little experiment goes well. And if you like this video, feel free to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, or subscribe if you're interested for more. I might just surprise you with some of the stuff I talk about. You never know. More importantly, you guys, thank you so much for listening, and Brevin, thank you for recommending this comic to me. It was a blast and a half to read, and I'm very sorry again that it took me so long to read it. Thank you all once again for listening. This is Rambling Collector, signing off for now. Have a great day, my fellow readers.